Hello and welcome to Odds on Premier League last match day, final day, match day 38. Tom Rennie is enjoying the end of this campaign. Remember, Arsenal champions, but still some things to be decided in this final day. Of course, there are options to make money, and the big thing to be decided is Tottenham or West Ham. Which team is gonna get relegated, Tom Rennie?
We'll reveal it in the program, but the answer is West Ham. But thanks for bringing it up right at the start of the show. I'm trying to be cheery here.
Yeah, there are plenty of options still. Don't worry, this is not a spoiler. Let's wait a bit to know what Tom Rennie has to say about Arsenal being champions, about Aston Villa being Europa League champions, and many other things we have to analyze. Perhaps Guardiola saying goodbye. Who knows? Let me know in the comments your thoughts. And now let's go on with the show. All right, well, final day, as I said, all the games to be played on Sunday, 4 p.m. Let's start with Brighton, Man United. Here we have some things on stake because Brighton can still qualify for different European competitions. They have to secure the Europa League spot. There is even an option that the sixth spot goes to the Champions League in case Aston Villa drop to the fifth spot. It's a bit complicated, but overall, Tom, Brighton need to win this game. They have 1 point more than Chelsea and Brentford, and Man United are on holidays. Brighton won the last 3 at home. Perhaps this is why they are favorites.
Yeah, and look, as you say, don't worry too much about the connotations of where Villa finish and what happens to sixth until it works out. There's no point stressing about it too much. Everyone needs to win is the basic point here from the weekend, and everyone's going to play to win. Brighton, though, will feel the last few weeks were a big missed opportunity. They'll feel that because they should have won at Leeds last week. We did go for the Leeds win, and our bet came off in the end with Calvert-Lewin scoring. But the way the game played out, it should have been 2 or 3 for Brighton. But this is the issue with a Brighton or a Bournemouth or an upwardly mobile mid-table team. The very best players get taken, and the ones that are there are just slightly below that level. They're incredibly well coached. They're a really good team, a lot of talent. But what you need is a Haaland. Obviously, we all need a Haaland. But what you need is someone who can finish the chances when they come. And they just did not do that last week against Leeds United. And that's been an issue for a lot of the teams in that sort of group. In the Newcastle game, there were lots of chances too, which they failed to convert. But look, fantastic season for Brighton. Won 5 of their 8 Premier League home meetings with Man United. In general, they do very well against them as they raise their game against Man United. Lots of history here with that late penalty for Bruno Fernandes after the full-time whistle a couple of years ago and all of that. So there's a good rivalry here between these two teams. But Brighton, very solid, been pretty decent at home across the campaign. Like a lot of the successful teams in the league this season, they've been hard to beat. 9 victories at home. They'll be hoping to make it 10, and I think they've got every chance of doing so. And look out for Jack Hinshelwood again in fantastic form. Didn't do the business last week in the way he had been doing, but before that, it was 3 goals in 3. And in behind Welbeck or Rutter has looked really, really good. In terms of Manchester United, they won last week. It was a really fun game against Forest. I expect this to be another fun game as well, similar to that. They, of course, did get that handball call goal, which changes everything. Goals always change games, and it sort of worked out luckily for them. I think there's a question about Benjamin Šeško, whether he comes back in, because Brian Mbeumo, despite scoring last week, had a bit of a tough game. Depends on how fit Šeško is, of course. There's a leg problem with him. But I do think, look, United have been pretty solid in terms of the way they've played for recent weeks under Michael Carrick. They'll have their 4 at the back, 2 in midfield, Mainu and Casemiro, Bruno Fernandes. Everything is going to run through him. He got that 20th assist last week, and I expect him to add to that tally this week. So I think what you got here is goals at both ends. Both teams to score at 1.4, then add that to whoever you think will win. Brighton at just over 2 is quite nice. I would just shade for them as the home team, but I can see this being over 2.5, maybe over 3 goals in this game. I think you're going to get goals, almost identical to the Forest game. Lots of fun, both teams swinging at it. A really good home team against this side that a pretty much all-out attack in Michael Carrick's United, 11 wins in 16. Brighton win, as I mentioned. If you're looking for a score, 1-1 at 8 is quite nice. I'd be looking at 1-1 or 2-2 as a group. I think 2-2 is also likely. And then you've got two players to pick out here. Jack Hinshelwood in good form, anytime is 4. Matchday 𝗗𝗜𝗦𝗖𝗟𝗔𝗜𝗠𝗘𝗥, anytime is 3.5.
All right, Brighton will not win. Viraj is telling us both teams to score is safer. 𝗗𝗚𝗏𝗏𝗏 going for Brighton to win and both teams to score. And 𝗗𝗏𝗏𝗏 is loving the odds for Man United to win. Indeed, they are very, very high. It's 3.5. Smart Bet is going for a draw in this game at 4.2. Then the game of teams relegated, Burnley and Wolves, still the last spot to be decided. There is some money also depending on the position you finish in the table. Burnley, only 1 point in the last 7 games. Wolves slightly better recently, slightly 2 points in the last 6 games. This is the classic draw, Tom, because it's impossible to trust either of these teams.
Well, what's funny about this is that both teams are equally likely to win as lose because it's the worst home team in the country against the worst away team in the country. It's an intriguing battle if you care about such things. If Wolves win, Burnley will finish bottom. If there's a draw, of course, Burnley will stay above them. Either way, they're both relegated, but you don't want to go down bottom. There is an element of pride in that for both of these two teams to play for. And look, from the eyeball test, I'll just talk about eyeball test. I think Burnley have been okay recently. Did a good job against Arsenal on Monday, competed well against Aston Villa in the previous home game. I thought gave Man City a good game. I thought gave Leeds a fairly decent game. They're a championship team with a temporary manager, but I do think there might be a sense of pride about Burnley in this game, despite not having won in 12. And in terms of Wolves, I'm not seeing that pride. I'm seeing a team that have totally given up. Fulham last week was a bit of a nothing game. It felt like an end-of-season friendly, and they got a draw out of it thanks to Mane's tremendous goal. But I think a lot of the Burnley players will still be at Burnley next season. I think this entire Wolves squad is going to change, and quite rightly, it's a bad group full of bad characters. And Rob Edwards, the manager, has basically said as much. They've never won at Turf Moor in 7 attempts. They haven't kept a clean sheet in 9 matches. They're a very, very poor team. I think it's dealer's choice here. I'm going to say take the Burnley win at 2.56, because if you're going to bet on this game, I would say you've got to go sort of wild for this to be involved in your bet. And I just think this Wolves team are horrendous, absolutely horrendous. And I think there is something more to Burnley than there is to Wolves. So to win at 2.56 is worth a bet. The handicap is interesting to me here, only because last game of the season, Wolves are relegated, as are Burnley. Sometimes you get games like this, last day of the season, when there's a feel-good factor. It's over. Burnley are going to be out of their misery after this moving forward. So a -1 for Burnley is 5. I don't know. This just appeals to me. I just think they might score a couple of goals and send everyone home happy for the first time in a long time. 1-0 on its own is 9.5. 2-0 on its own is 13. If you're going to bet on this game, you bet on a home win. And there's really good odds for a home win here.
Okay, I would say it's better not to bet on this game. Indeed, both teams to lose. This is a classic one. I feel sorry for
what do you want from me?
Okay, yeah, let's go to the next one. Someone is feeling sorry because we are not here for 3 months, but we will be here for the World Cup. So no worries, Jama. We are gonna be here hopefully during the month and something that we have the World Cup. So still we are not going on holidays. Let's go to the next game. Crystal Palace, Arsenal. This game, now both are thinking, of course, in the European finals. So nothing to play for here. I am surprised, Tom, to see Arsenal celebrating the title the day after the Champions League final, because even if for them winning the Premier League is very important, I would say that they would be disappointed if they lose the final, just to go on the streets just one day later to celebrate something that happened 10 days prior to the Champions League. But they decided this, I guess, because they want to be focused on the Champions League final, not in this game particularly. I guess this will be to celebrate in the pitch and with some fans the title that they got when they were watching Man City drawing against Bournemouth. Once again, Arsenal got a win with set pieces, with a header, only 1-0 against Burnley. So they clinched the title. They made it finally after being runners-up so many seasons. So congratulations. And now also Crystal Palace thinking about the Conference League final on Wednesday. Well, Tom, what to say about this game?
Well, firstly, I think it's worth saying to echo your comments in that it's they are the best team in the country. They may well be the best team in Europe. We'll find out in a couple of weeks, next Saturday when the final is. But they've done it on the quality of their defence. There is no great attack to speak of at Arsenal. You know, the old maxim is that attacks win you games and defences win you titles. Well, the defence is also the best attack, and they've won the title at both ends. Saliba, Gabriel, and Raya are the three best players in the league. Add Rice to that diamond of players is the reason Arsenal are so solid. Across all competitions, Arsenal have kept 36 clean sheets. It's absolutely insane how few goals they have conceded this season. They've also allowed the fewest shots on goal, the fewest shots on target, the lowest XG per game in all of the top 5 leagues in Europe. Like, I could go on. It's wild how good Arsenal are defensively. If they score a goal, you're more or less beaten. And as we saw that against Burnley, we saw it against West Ham recently. We've seen it countless times this season. Scoring against them is really, really difficult. And I don't think that will change here, despite the fact they're champions. And to your point as well about the parade, obviously it's a logistics thing, but they're going to be fully focused on Paris Saint-Germain, even from right now. So I'd expect anyone who'd played a lot of minutes maybe to be rested here. Declan Rice has played more minutes than any other player in the league this season. Maybe it's a chance for Christian Norgard to play. Maybe it's a chance for Noni Madueke to start in front of Bukayo Saka. Maybe it's a chance for Nketiah to play against whomever is going to play in the PSG final. So great time for Arsenal to do some rotation, but also they're going to want to keep these players ticking over. They don't want to over-celebrate what happened in midweek. So team selection going to be really, really interesting here. But I do think people like Kai Havertz, Declan Rice might be on the bench for the entirety of this game. But still, despite the changes, we said this at the very, very start of the season, it's the strongest squad in the country. They've got 2 really good players in every position. No one beyond maybe the players I've mentioned, but certainly offensively, you'd put in a kind of world-class bracket. Saka, Havertz, Trossard, very good, not world-class. But defensively, they are. That's where they put their resource. And the attackers that are there are all really good 7 or 8 out of 10 players. They don't fall below a level. There's a consistency to them, which has got them to this point. So rotation, I don't think will affect Arsenal's performance at all. Motivation potentially could, but I do think this Arsenal team are going to be really, really focused. They're not going to be on the beach, as they say, with PSG coming up. So I expect a pretty standard Arsenal performance. Not a great deal of chances, not a great deal of creativity to work the angles, work the refs, work the occasions, and to probably score from a set piece. And in terms of Crystal Palace, like, their eye's not been off the ball, despite the Conference League final coming up. They've been losing games, sure, but they continue to be quite solid. So even in the games they've lost recently, like the Man City game or indeed the Liverpool game, they should have won at Anfield when they lost that game by 3-1. But winning games has been a problem. They have sort of been hanging on the ropes, being quite solid, resting people for Conference League against Newcastle and West Ham when they played recently. They changed like half the team in the game. So, look, I think it screams draw, frankly, at 4.2. It's well worth a bet. I think Crystal Palace remain very tough to beat. At home this season, they have had, where are we in my table? 9 home draws, which is a really high amount. For Arsenal, 5 away draws. So I think it does look like a draw at 4.2. 1-1, the most common scoreline, if it is to be a draw. That's a really healthy 7.5. And it's the last time this season we'll do it. Let's do all the Arsenal bets that have come in so many times for us this season. If you feel like Arsenal are going to win it, obviously Arsenal win. Arsenal win to 0 is 3.5. It keeps on coming in. So if you think Arsenal are going to be up for this, that's what happens. Arsenal win by exactly 1 goal, which came in against West Ham. It came in against Burnley. Why won't it come in again at 3.75? These double your money bets on Arsenal's most common results this season have just been free money for us this campaign.
Yes, especially against the bottom half teams, they are always beating them by 1 goal margin. Arsenal can make history and win the Champions League and remain unbeaten. Jack Ryanair sees both teams to score. Arsenal finally to concede. Both focus on Europe, must not watch game. Indeed, 𝗗𝗦𝗦𝗟𝗏, there are much better games to watch. We will be focused on them the following week, of course. Next game, also, I'm not too sure that we should focus too much. Fulham, Newcastle, both with 49 points. They won't qualify for Europe. Fulham drew with Wolves and lost the previous two, Bournemouth and Arsenal. Marco Silva looks like going to Benfica to replace Mourinho. And Newcastle beat comfortably West Ham the last week. Tom, what is happening with Eddie Howe? I guess he's leaving, right?
No, I think he's staying. I think Eddie Howe will stay. I think he is really well liked by the Newcastle fan base that go to St James's Park. I think that it has been a disappointing season, but you may have seen in the press this morning that the Saudis who run the club are looking to sell 25% of it. There's obviously issues in the Gulf, which we haven't got to get into on this program, but there's a lack of funding coming into Newcastle. And I think that changing manager now would suggest there's a ambition to win the league or something. I don't think that's there. I think next season the goal will be to get back into Europe. I think there'll be some sales. I think there'll be some manipulations. I think there'll be some subtle changes in the summer. I don't think they'll kind of go big and spend hundreds of millions on players. And so I think Eddie Howe stays, and I think that's probably right. And last week against West Ham as well, we saw almost like the old Newcastle, right? In short, the issue this season is that they plan to have 𝗗𝗏. They lost 𝗗𝗏 late. 𝗗𝗏𝗦𝗟𝗏, his sort of direct replacement, if you like, has been a massive flop. And they've had to keep trying to find different ways to play. Eddie Howe wants to play the way they played against West Ham last week, 4-3-3, where the central striker has got to do so much work, like 𝗗𝗏 or a fit younger Wilson used to do. He's found that in 𝗗𝗏. I don't know how long it will last, but the recent form of 𝗗𝗏 has been tremendous. Scored 2 last week, scored or been very influential in the previous 6 games he started. And now you're seeing what Newcastle could have been if 𝗗𝗏 had stayed. 14 wins is pretty respectable. The trouble is they've lost too many games, 16 far too many. If they could have drawn a few more, shoulda, coulda, wouldas, they'd be in the European mix where they probably should be. And I think Eddie Howe at Newcastle will go next season a lot better than they have this. And in terms of Fulham, as you mentioned, Marco Silva's leaving. It's not been great how he's strung them along. I think Benfica is happening, as you say. And I hope Fulham have got contingency plans. I hope they've been planning for this because it's so clear he is going to go. If not, I think Fulham next season are going to be one to watch in terms of potential relegation trouble. They could do a Wolves or a West Ham next season because the squad needs a refresh big time, I think. The older players are coming to the end of their run. I think Rodrigo Muniz had a poor season. They're asking a lot of someone like Raul Jimenez. There's loads of fancy down wingers, Bob, Iwobi, and Iwobi's not fair. Kevin, I meant to say, Iwobi's a good player and probably their best player. But a lot of players that are 1 in 3 players. Harry Wilson likely leaving as well, and he's gone off the boil too. So a new manager needs to come in and maybe rebrand Fulham. And until we know who that is, they can't get planning for it. And their direct rivals, Brighton, Brentford, those clubs are already planning for the future, and Fulham are not. So recent form not been great for Fulham, despite the fact this is going to be a goodbye game for Marco Silva. And I just think Newcastle, having seen them last week, are well worth a bet on 2.37. I can see goals at both ends, so certainly look at the over in this game, over 1.5, over 2.5. And in terms of individuals, I mentioned him already, 𝗗𝗏𝗟𝗏, anytime goal scorer at 2.75. Real cheeky little bet here, considering 2 against West Ham, 1 against Brighton, 1 against Bournemouth, 1 against Palace. I think that run continues, so check that out.
All right, another draw here. Indeed, well, nothing to play for. If you go for the draw, you are going to have good odds. And the bookies expect also a draw if we check the odds. Next game with much more things on stake, much more interesting, is Liverpool Brentford. Great game, this one. Let's see, because Liverpool still need to clinch the Champions League spot after the defeat against Aston Villa. Is the 12th defeat this season. away from home, they've been dreadful. They are 9th in the away table. Drew with Chelsea. Before that, lost to Man United. So their run of form is really bad. A lot of goodbyes, I think, at Anfield. Of course, Mohamed Salah being the first of them. I think he should have gone long time before this weekend. And be careful, because away we have Brentford playing away, but still they can qualify for the Europa League. They drew with Palace and lost to City, but they are not in good form. It's only one win in the last 9 for Brentford. I'm surprised also Liverpool not getting Xabi Alonso, I must admit. Tom?
Well, they believe in Arne Slot. I mean, whether we do or not, whether the fans do or not, it's
How is that possible?
I mean, he did win him the Premier League. You got to give him that. He did come in and win him the Premier League. This season's been bad. You're absolutely right. It's been bad. But I think they've looked around at the market, and Xabi Alonso is not a sure thing. The Leverkusen job was amazing, absolutely. But the Real Madrid job obviously was not great for various reasons you've discussed at length, I'm sure, on other shows. And look, I just don't know whether him coming into Liverpool at this moment would have been the right call. And Arne Slot, what he needs is a player rejuvenation, right? If they're going to stick with him, which I think, is in the end an interesting decision. It's not the worst decision. Cody Gakpo up front, not a striker. Ekitike and Isak have been injured, and Isak has barely been there all season. The summer did not go well, as has been well established. The defense has not been good. He needs to change a lot of players, and the Salah thing has been awful for him this season. And even Salah's statement last week, if it were me, but I'm a petty man, I would leave Salah at home on Sunday, and just say, thanks for everything, mate. You don't slag me off. It's my club, not yours. Goodbye. But we'll see if he gives him his sort of goodbye appearance. He probably will, but I'm not sure I would, following the statement that he made last week. But I think they've got a good manager. He needs players that believe in him. And they sort of did last season in a way, but this has always been Klopp's squad. So I think a lot of sales this summer, a lot of people need to go, a lot of positions need to be addressed. And if they do that, they bring in some slot disciples, I think they could go really well next season. So that's really interesting. I do think there'll be a desire to win here for those leaving players. And I think with people like Rio and Gamoa and people like McAllister and one or two others, there's still a desire to impress from the guys that want to stay. And in terms of Brentford, look, fantastic first half of this season. Third quarter wasn't amazing. This quarter's been bad. And even the game they won in that run was the game against West Ham, where West Ham should have had 2 penalties. The first goal shouldn't have stood. They didn't play amazingly well that day. So all in all, the form has tailed off. Great season all told, but the current run, it's a very small squad of overperforming players. They look pretty gassed, and I don't think it's surprised anyone they've fallen off a cliff a little bit. So I think that it's 10 home victories this season for Liverpool, solid and unspectacular. In terms of Brentford, their form speaks for itself. I think Liverpool win at 1.86. That ain't too bad. They have conceded a lot of goals this season, Liverpool. That has been one of the biggest issues they have had. They've conceded at least 1, sometimes 2, sometimes 3, sometimes 4 in each of their last 5. So they will concede here. Liverpool and both teams to score is double your money, but I do think the Reds will score plenty of goals. At least 1 in all their last 5, 2 against Man United, 2 against Villa. They'll score at least 2, maybe 3 here. Look at the handicap market if you want to make some money and bet on this game. Some late Liverpool flurry of goals with Salah scoring 1. Liverpool, both teams to score 3. Liverpool -1 is 3 as well. So a couple of nice double your money bets. And of course, it's Mo Salah's last home game. Anytime for Salah. Just throw it in. Everyone's going to be.
Okay, correct score 1-1. Sama going for Brentford to win. Rajev also sees double chance in this game, so not a lot of trust on this Liverpool. The season was awful, and I'm very surprised that they give Arne Slot another chance. I wouldn't, to be honest. Man City, Aston Villa is the next game. Really interesting. Reports say this is going to be Guardiola's farewell. We still don't know. It looks like he's going to go to Italy and coach Italian national team after winning the this season, double cups, but not, of course, the Premier League. They were out in the playoffs in the Champions League. So I'm not sure, Tom, if this is a good season to say goodbye for Pep Guardiola after the amount of money that this club spends every 6 months. And what to say about Aston Villa. They smash Freiburg, they win comfortably the Europa League final, they nailed the Champions League spot the previous week against Liverpool. What a job Unai Emery has done with this team. Remember that when he arrived, the team was struggling to stay in the Premier League. He qualified the team twice for the Champions League, gave them European glory. So great job, Unai Emery. I really like your job.
I think it's the manager of the season, and I'm staggered that that's not like just a given, considering what he's achieved this campaign. There was a brief period they were in the title race in December, which, you know, they weren't really, but they were keeping pace with Arsenal and City was the point. And it was a great job to have done that. They've gone and won the Europa League at a canter, really. They've barely been challenged in the Europa League and have won all the big games convincingly. They've easily qualified for the Champions League. And it's worth noting, again, I keep saying this, Conser was with him in the Championship. Cash was with him in the Championship. McGinn was with him in the Championship. Ollie Watkins with him in the Championship. This is still very much Dean Smith's like core basis squad from a few years ago. Even people like Buendia, who were big money signings, but his rejuvenation has been spectacular this season. I mean, who would have thought he'd score a goal that good in the Europa League final when he was looking to get bombed out of the squad at the start of last season? You know, if you buy into Unai Emery and deliver for him, that's what can happen for you. So incredible achievement from Emery. First European trophy since 1982, first trophy since the 90s for Villa, Champions League qualification, future looks bright for them, and tremendous achievement. I do think the eye might be off the prize here, frankly. And as we saw against Tottenham a couple of weeks ago, if Unai Emery tells them to let go of the reins and play with less intensity, when the intensity drops, it drops massively, because it's so on a limit the entire time with Villa and all these players. If they drop off a bit, you get the Tottenham performance. And I think we're going to get the Villa that played Tottenham in this game. So I wouldn't be surprised if they got absolutely hammered by Man City on the final day, and no one will care a jot about it. In terms of City, it is going to be Guardiola's final game. I think that's well known at this point. I think that they will try and deliver for Guardiola. Look, to your point, I think it has been a successful season. They're back in the Champions League, so they qualify for that. They win 2 trophies. They pushed Arsenal as close as they could. It's not like the perfect send-off, because, of course, he would have wanted to win one of the 2 bigger prizes, but still a fairly respectable send-off. And there is a sense that Guardiola seems to have run out of gas a little bit. I think that's fair. And I think he's been there a long, long time. And I think maybe City need a new voice. I think the Premier League needs a new voice. I think his way of playing, which was so dominant 3 years ago across the last decade, it's not there anymore. It's now long throws and physicality. It's Arteta's league and everyone else is playing in it. And does Guardiola does he have another idea? I mean, he's had so many different ideas and different ways of playing. Does he have another one? I'm not sure he does. And I think maybe going to another league to test himself, maybe international football, as you say, will be great for him. I expect him to do a bit of a Klopp and have a few months off, maybe years. But look, in terms of this game, I think City win it quite comfortably. They've won all 12 Premier League meetings with Villa at the Etihad. It's Guardiola's final game. They're unbeaten in 11, and Villa won the Europa League last night. So look at the City win at 1.45. I think they win without conceding and win pretty comfortably. So a 1-0, 2-0 or 3-0 group bet is a really healthy 4. Struggling to see the desire from Aston Villa to go and score a goal and might win the game. I think it might be quite comfortable. Minus 1.5. Handicap is 2.1. I might even be more adventurous than that and double your money and start looking at minus 2.5. Maybe a hefty victory here. And then it's City. So Haaland anytime as he looks to win that golden boot, which he will. 27 currently. He'll score in this game. Maybe even a Haaland hat-trick to push him to 30. That would not surprise me.
Well, the end of an era for Man City, the most successful time in their history, is going to be the goodbye for Pep Guardiola, but probably also for so many players. They say Rodri, Bernardo Silva, for instance, running out of contract. So I'm sure the team is going to be very different next season with Enzo Maresca on the bench. Some comments here. Man City to win, Konats. Villa is still hungover. I'm pretty sure they are going to be still really hung over. Haaland scoring at least one goal. Jama is telling us it looks like it could be an easy win indeed for Man City. Next game is Nottingham Forest. Bournemouth here is important for the away team, already qualified for Europe for the very first time in their history after the draw against Man City. They could have won, they should have won that game, but at the end, Haaland scored in stoppage time. What a season for Iraola's men, despite losing all the defense, despite losing Semenyo in winter. They still made it to European spots, and who knows which competition is still to be decided. That's why they have to go to Nottingham and win, Tom, if they want to challenge even for the Champions League, but at least a draw, so they keep this amazing unbeaten run. I think it was the 3rd or 4th of January, the last time they lost a football game.
Yeah, I think whatever happens now, they're going to finish 6th. I don't think that they will lose this game, and so a point will get them there. And I don't think the manner of victory will be big enough, or Liverpool will lose for them to get 5th, but 6th could do it, as we mentioned earlier on, depending on Villa's final position in the table. Now they're on the Europa League. But look, I'm amazed that no one's gone for Andoni Iraola yet. I am staggered that he decided he was leaving the club. How long ago? 2 months? 3 months? I know that Chelsea spoke to him, but they've gone for Xabi Alonso. I can see why Chelsea maybe wouldn't want someone who'd never been at the very, very top level as a manager. I can see why they might think they need someone with another step in their career, considering the mess that Chelsea are currently in. But so many clubs. I mean, the Crystal Palace link surprises me, but at the moment, there's not many drives for him next season, Iraola. So if he wants to stay in the Premier League, there's not really much for him at the moment. If he wants to go to another country, he'll get significantly less money. But he will get more profile. I think there's loads of great jobs in Italy that would be fantastic for Iraola that are always coming up. Napoli could be fantastic for him. Milan could be fantastic for him. There'll be some jobs in Spain that maybe could have come up. I think he'll be somewhat annoyed at this point that Athletic Club didn't happen and Terzic has gone in there. He'll get that job at some point in the future. But the fact he didn't get that makes me feel like he thought another job was coming and it hasn't come. So it's all very surprising to me. And I'm really interested to see where he goes. And I wonder if they make the Champions League, which they won't. If they did, I wonder if they might be able to say, sorry, Marco Rosa, we've changed our minds. Iraola's staying. It's going to be a fascinating one to watch. But look, team's so solid. I mean, how much more praise can we give to Bournemouth? Incredibly well organised. The intensity is staggering. The winning the ball back when the opposition have got it is incredible. And Junior Krupi has been just exceptional this season. 13 Premier League goals in his debut full campaign. Great goal in midweek to essentially give Arsenal the title on the night. Looks a fantastic player. Of course, brought from a sister club. Could have been a £30 million signing they managed to steal for a song. And I think there'll be a big sale for Bournemouth in the not too distant future. I wouldn't be surprised to see if Iraola goes somewhere. That Junior Krupi is the first person he brings in. His career is going to be massive over the next 5 to 7 years. So really good team, really well organised. 17 matches unbeaten, 17 draws is incredible. The most of any team since 2003. And for Forest, look, we thought there'd been a relegation battle. They've been in it all season long. The failures of Spurs and West Ham, plus this brilliant uptick in form, has seen them get out of that. And it's a send-off for people like Morgan Gibbs-White and Elliot Anderson, who I think will be sold in the summer, especially after Gibbs-White lifts the World Cup with England, which is definitely happening. So, look, I think that it's going to be a fun game. I think it's going to be a fun game, and I expect both teams to score at 1.5. Both teams to score, yes. Then pick your winner. I would just shade for Bournemouth at 2.17, but frankly, I mentioned the draws. Draw. 17 draws for Bournemouth this season, I mentioned, is a record. Nottingham Forest have not drawn too many games this season. 10's a good number, but it's not like a wild number. But at home this campaign, Nottingham Forest at the City Ground have drawn 7 of their matches. So screams draw, loads of goals. Wouldn't be surprised if this was the funnest game of the final day. This might be 3-3. Could be 4-4. I hope so. If Bournemouth win, again, both teams to score. 2-1, 3-1, 4-1, and group bet is 5. It's quite nice. And I mentioned Junior Krupi. Any time for him is 2.38. It's going to be a lot of fun, and he's going to score.
Yeah, Romario is telling you also Krupi to score. Bournemouth won't lose. Connacht, both teams to score. Draw. True is telling us, and David is hoping Iraola chooses Milan. I guess it's going to be very difficult.
Amazing.
To get this manager. But let's see. Next game is Sunderland-Chelsea. Finally, good news for Chelsea, beating Tottenham and getting Xabi Alonso, the new manager. Let's see if they give him authority and power, not as they usually do with the managers, still to be seen. I'm also surprised to see João Pedro out of the list of Brazil for the World Cup. And for this game, Tom, apart of all the news around Chelsea, they have to win to qualify for Europe. It's important at least to play Conference or Europa League in their case. And Sunderland is still with slim options to play European football if they win this game. Tough one, this one for Chelsea?
The best thing that can happen for Chelsea here is a loss. The very best thing that can happen for them is this club do not want to be in the Conference League. They really, really do not want to be in the Conference League. It will cost them money to be in the Conference League. It will be a drag on their season to be in the Conference League. Xabi Alonso don't want that. The players don't want that. The club don't want that. I'm not saying they're going to throw this game. I'm just saying a loss here and to finish below Sunderland would not be the worst thing for everybody involved. So I question the motivation a bit going into this match. I don't think they'll be going all out to qualify for Conference or Europa. Currently, I think they're sitting in the Conference League place the way it's currently looking. And look, what an achievement it would be for Sunderland to get there. And I think that's going to be the driving, motivating factor here. They have been great at home this season against big teams. They picked up some really, really good results. I know that things fell off a little cliff a bit up until the Sunderland Forest thrashing. But since then, they've picked up a couple of draws. They beat Everton last week in a well-deserved victory. That puts them right back in the mix for European qualification. Win here takes them to 54 points. They could finish 7th. They could finish 8th. 8th, it stands, Conference League. And I think that would be really, really important for Sunderland. With other results and who they're playing, that is the most likely outcome. Brobbey's been great. Lefebvre's been great. I think Xhaka has been fantastic. It's good to have for them 𝗗𝗜𝗦𝗖𝗟𝗓 and Alderweireld back together. Roos is fit again. We're getting back to the strongest Sunderland team after a few weeks and months of having to change it up. And I think against the Chelsea team that they are done. Xabi Alonso's not here yet, okay? The motivation will not be there. I wouldn't risk Levi Colwill on his comeback from the start. I wouldn't be surprised if we saw young Jesse Derry after his head injury get another start. I wouldn't be surprised to see Philip Jorgensen get a nod here. I wouldn't be surprised to see some of the want-away players like Enzo Fernandez given a bit of a farewell 70 minutes. If he's bought into what Xabi Alonso is selling or not, we'll find out together. And you mentioned João Pedro. I think if you were Carlo Ancelotti and you had Igor or you had João Pedro, I think I'd probably go for the Brentford striker. Frankly, I think João Pedro is a good player, but I don't know. I don't think he's been spectacular for Chelsea this season. And I do wonder if Xabi Alonso might, well, certainly Delap's going to go because he's essentially like a fan who's run on the pitch. So you add that. I just don't know about João Pedro. That's going to be fascinating to see. But look, in this game, go for the Sunderland win. The odds are really good at 3.81. Plenty of motivation. They'll be desperate for another big scalp this season. I think next season is going to be a lot tougher for Sunderland than this season has turned out to be. But I think fun, both goals, both teams will score goals at both ends. Sunderland, both teams to score a really, really healthy 6. I think it'll be a good one.
Okay, Sunderland to win also for 𝗗𝗓𝗏 and Xhaka to score or assist. Jack, I disagree with you. Tom, Chelsea's pride themselves on European football and being in the mix for winning trophies. I still don't think we will win this game.
Europa League. If there was the Europa League, they go for it. The risk of Conference League, honestly, mate, they really don't want, I'm telling you, they don't want to be in it. So, well, we'll see.
They already won it with substitutes, actually. Now the fight to avoid relegation. Tottenham, Everton, last service from David Moyes to West Ham. Tom, I guess all the Hammers are hoping this. Tottenham at least need a point to get safe. Lost to Chelsea, a great opportunity not to go to the final day. And remember, they are the second worst team at home this season with only 2 wins. So there is a risk, I guess, with all the tension, Tom, that Tottenham are not able to win this game.
There is, but a draw favours them as well. And I think West Ham going on this horrendous run at the very, very wrong time has favoured Spurs. And of course, they got the win over Wolves and they played Villa at a point where Villa just were not interested and Spurs took full advantage in a really good performance. Look, I think it's evident that Roberto De Zerbi has brought an organisation to Spurs that was not there when that Wally was in charge for a few weeks, or Thomas Frank before him. Gallagher in behind Richarlison gives them a battling mentality. They're a very blunt team, Spurs. They will not and do not create many chances. But I think in Richarlison, as we spoke about previously, they have a bit of a specialist when it comes to scoring goals, to keeping teams in the league. He's done it with Everton before. He's been doing it now with Spurs. It's 15 Premier League goal involvements this season for Richarlison. He's up against his former club, of course, who he'd saved previously. I think it's a big game for Richarlison, a big game for Tottenham. The home form has been bad, absolutely, and it will be nervy here. But I just think knowing that a draw is enough. I think if they have a 1-goal lead, is there enough in Everton to see them go on to score 2? I just don't think so. They haven't won any of their last 6 matches, Everton. Their European hopes are all but over. They've been dropping points in dramatic ways against West Ham, against Man City, against Crystal Palace, and last week against Sunderland was a real nadir of the season. I feel like they're going to be a team that just, they've missed out on what could have been this season. And I think that Moyes, again, has done a fantastic thing in that this squad could really have been relegated. Like, this is not a particularly better squad than Spurs or West Ham or Forest or Leeds. It's a poor squad with a couple of standout players. But even the standout players like Dewsbury Hall and Jack Grealish have been injured this season. And so done incredibly well not to be involved in any sort of relegation battle. They've done that with the organisation of David Moyes. And look, I don't think this is going to be a fun game. I don't think it's going to be Spurs 3-0 and it's a party atmosphere. I wouldn't be surprised to see this going 0-0 into 60 minutes, 70 minutes, nervy atmosphere. And then I think maybe the goals will come for Spurs. But screams draw to me at 3.95. I think Everton will dig in, and there's not a great deal of creativity with Tottenham. And they are going to push their fans all the way to the limit in terms of the risk of relegation. But I do think they get the point that would see them safe on goal difference if West Ham have won. Draw on both teams to score, essentially 1-1, is a really nice 4.5. I'd take that as well. If you're looking for a winner, go for Spurs. The odds are quite good, but if Spurs win it, I think it'll be by exactly 1 goal. That will be a late Richarlison goal to see him safe in the Premier League. 3.75 for an exactly 1-goal victory for Spurs. And I keep bringing him up. Richarlison's going to score in this game. Anytime for him is 2.5. Spurs are going to be safe.
Okay, a nervy draw. Someone is saying if we check our smart bet is going for draw or Everton at 1.9. There is value indeed in these odds, considering the poor form of Spurs playing at home, and I'm sure it's going to be a tense, nervy game. Someone is saying 𝗗𝗜𝗦𝗖𝗟𝗔𝗜𝗠𝗘𝗥 can't wait for Tom's comments on West Ham. So let's go to our final game of the season. West Ham Leeds. Tom, is a miracle that they are still alive actually in the final day after losing to Newcastle, Arsenal and Brentford in the last 3 games. But well, miracles sometimes happen, and let's see if they are able to beat these Leeds, by the way, arriving unbeaten in the last 8 games, 4 wins and 4 draws. And hope for a miracle nearby in the Tottenham ground and get safe. But it's going to be almost impossible, Tom.
Yeah, look, I already think Spurs will get the point required to stay up, which will make the West Ham Leeds game immaterial. But look, West Ham had lost 3 of 13 before this run, where they've lost 3 of 3. And look, the Arsenal game was an anomaly. They should have got a point in that game. But the Brentford and Newcastle games were nothing short of a disgrace. And I think the way Nuno set up last week is characteristic of his time at West Ham. A gutless, spineless, wet blanket of a manager who, when the game has come around, has not been able to win multiple times. That the fact he is such a scared manager, it hasn't helped in the relegation battle this time around. Other times during his career with Forest a couple of years ago, going ultra defense worked for him. But he just had better defenders and he had better players and he had a better setup to do that when he came in. This team can't defend. And Jean-Claire Todibo has no business being in a Premier League team, certainly on the wrong side. He's right-footed and he shoved him out on the left last week. And obviously it didn't work and they got destroyed. They desperately needed someone to press Bruno Guimaraes and he played Callum Wilson, who can't run. Like, he made basic errors last week. Again, he's made so many mistakes. This is not a good squad and it's not a good team. And David Sullivan and Graham Potter and the players deserve a lot more criticism than Nuno. Absolutely. But Nuno has been awful for West Ham. Absolutely awful. Just a gutless manager. And this has not been the season for it. He had to go out and try and win these games. And against Newcastle last week, sitting off Newcastle and playing a 3 at the back. Newcastle destroy teams who play 3 at the back. It's a well-known thing that people just know. But apparently Nuno doesn't. And they set up perfectly to get beaten by Newcastle last week. And as you saw, when he changed it and played 𝗗𝗥𝗦𝗟𝗔𝗜𝗠𝗘𝗥 after 20 minutes, they're in the game because he was the most pivotal player and he decided not to play him. And then at the end of the game, he went back to 3 at the back and Newcastle scored again. Nuno's just so stupid. He's a stupid, stupid man. He's a stupid, idiot man. And I think that if Sean Dyche had come in or Gary O'Neill would come in or anyone had come in, I think they'd have had more of a chance of staying up than they did under Nuno because he should never have taken this job. Never, never, never should have taken this job. And maybe West Ham would have gone down anyway. But I think he, in the last 3 weeks, once again, has been found severely lacking. But the players too. Bowen has stopped scoring. Somerville has done nothing since coming back from injury. Defence has been all right before they went back to 4 at the back. But why is Wan-Bissaka back in the team, having been awful for a year? I don't know. I think they have to go all out attack and they have to go 4-3-3 or the team they were playing before Nuno went back to 3 at the back for no real reason. But they won't beat Leeds. I don't think they've got enough to beat Leeds. Leeds all season have been just so tough to beat. And they've done that better than West Ham. West Ham were trying to get draws and were losing games. Leeds were trying to get draws and they got draws. And it's draw after draw after draw. 14 draws this season. They were on their way to another draw last week against Brighton and got the late winner. They've done that a few times this season. The Fulham game springs to mind. This is going to be a low-scoring, nervy, horrible affair. And as it goes on, West Ham will need to try and push for a win. And that then leads me to Leeds United goals. So it's a Leeds game. We've won like 14 of these bets this season. So look at the draw at 4.2 because Leeds are involved. As is so often the case for Leeds United, I listed them last week. 1-1 at 7.5 has brought us in lots of money this year. So why end that winning formula? I do think both teams will score. I think West Ham do have it in them to score a goal, despite only scoring 3, I think, in the last 5 games, something like that. Not scoring many goals. But I do think they will score in this game. But Calvert-Lewin will score. Leeds will score. And if you're looking for a winner, what was it, 3.9? Something like that for a Leeds win. Really, really good odds here. 4.1 now. That's gone up since I looked this morning. For a Leeds win, as West Ham get desperate to score goals near the end, as they have to, I think there'll be some late breakaway goals here, and Leeds maybe win it, maybe even 2 or 3-0 come the end of it. So West Ham are down. Leeds will get something from the game, and I look forward to Nuno's resignation. It's the only thing I've got now.
Nothing to say about Pablo, one of the worst signings probably in recent history. I think it should be investigated.
If you would like to talk about Pablo, I'm happy to talk about Pablo. In the I can't. That signing does need investigating, by the way, 100%. But secondly, I do think he's a nice, hard-working kid. And last week he put him on in central midfield against Newcastle. I'm sorry, that's like metaphorical suicide. So I think he's a hard-working little fella who's got a nice first touch on him. But a £20 million who's playing in central midfield, I'm sorry, that does need investigating. I agree.
Indeed, and they should add also a last name, no, to Pablo. There are so many Pablos in this life. Yeah. Right, both teams to score possible. West Ham to win and get relegated. Jack Ryanair, I think West Ham will put it out the back, especially at home. But Everton will set up for a draw. William is a believer, Tom, West Ham to win and Spurs to lose. All right, let's check a smart bet for this game. Is going double chance for Leeds. By the way, X2 odds are 1.98.
Yeah, Leeds win.
There you go, even 2. Depend on the bookies. Okay, guys, let me remind you, we have our tipster competitions going on. As always, the Premier League one is finishing in this very day, same weekend. And now we have the World Cup one, as I just saw. There you go. It was not live yet, but there you go. Well, Tom, let's say goodbye to this very long season once again. Thank you for being with us. 38 videos. Thanks, everyone, for watching. 38 videos, or the number you wanted to watch. Tom, let's go with your final safe bet.
Yeah, tricky on the final day, but I do think with Guardiola leaving and Villa winning the Europa League on Wednesday, City, safe bet to win, home against Villa, 1.45.
Your ACA was correct, by the way, last week. So the last one this season.
I'm feeling brave here. I've gone Man City, safe bet. I think Liverpool beat Brentford in Salah's final game. But if you put Burnley in, now I know this is wild, they're the worst home team in the country, but if you put them in to beat Wolves, they don't want to finish bottom, it comes in at a really healthy 6. 5-1 is quite nice. So I'm betting on Burnley to bring it home for me. I've never said that before.
It is wild and risky, indeed. Okay, Tom, thank you for the video, for the season. See you soon. Thanks, everyone, for watching. Bye-bye.